Good afternoon and welcome to another edition of Dodgers Dogs as part of the Dodgers Daily Network. My name is Austin Brubaker. I'm going to be your host this afternoon, and things are going well for the Los Angeles Dodgers. This is a statement that you've heard me re-emphasize quite a bit over the past couple of years as the Dodgers are back-to-back World Series champions, as they have the most talent in the game of baseball, both at the major league level, and they have a ton of talent at the minor league level. They're able to spend a lot of money to be able to acquire this talent, and they also have the ability to be able to develop and make quality major league type of players. Things are going well for the Dodgers. But I want to do at least a little bit while things are going well. And when things are going well, let's be frank, let's be honest, there's less to talk about when things are going well than when things are going wrong, because then you're trying to find areas to fix things that are going wrong. There's really not a whole lot of areas to fix on this Dodgers team. They have the best offense in the game of baseball with a 123 WRC plus on the season. Aside from Miguel Rojas, they would have a sub-3 ERA as a pitching staff this season at about a 298. And you look at the underlying metrics for pitching-wise, things are going well. They're throwing a lot, getting a lot of innings out of their starters. They have the fewest amount of innings as a bullpen as well. Defense, they are top 3 defense in the game of baseball this year. Things are going well for the Los Angeles Dodgers. So what I want you to be able to do, especially because yesterday was such a great illustration about things going well for this Dodgers team and just the overall infrastructure of the Los Angeles Dodgers, is I want to take a little bit of a step back, not just talk about those specific acclimates, but also talk about the system as a whole and be able to highlight how the system as a whole is doing well and how it's not just things on the surface going well for the first place Los Angeles Dodgers, but under the surface and the things coming along are going well as well. And I think that was perfectly highlighted by what we saw in the game yesterday and what was the most deserved first home run of their career that I've seen in quite a long time, in Ryan Ward getting his first major league home run at the major league level. We won't show the footage, we don't want it to get copyrighted, but what a moment for Ryan Ward, who has more than earned this opportunity, more than deserved this moment for him, who is the most prolific home run hitter in Oklahoma City, the baseball club, the Comets, going back to when they were the Oklahoma City Dodgers, that team's history. One of the most prolific home run hitters for them. Somebody who last year, Pacific Coast League MVP, fighting for every single opportunity to get to the major league level, and very likely in most other organizations at least gets an opportunity to get an MLB shot. Finally gets a little bit more of a runway with the injury to Teoscar Hernandez, and he was able to take advantage of it, hitting his first major league home run. You got to see his moment. You also got to see somebody like an Alex Freeland step up in the moment and be able to take advantage, hitting a double, hitting a home run as well. Further walking, getting another time on base. He's starting to make some sort of strides to where you look at his overall season numbers and he's just below league average as a hitter, which if he's around a league average hitter with the quality of defense that he's able to play, which, oh my goodness, with the last play that he made to end that ball game with the flip of the glove, if he's close to a league average hitter and plays defense like that, he is a quality major league hitter, because that is the exact same type of hitter that Tommy Edman is at the MLB level. Around league average, but can play really good defense. And we'll get into some of the numbers with Alex Freeland in just a minute, just how good his defense is. But it's not just at the major league level that we are seeing this. We're also seeing it at the minor league level. We're going to talk just how good the Dodgers system is, especially with the hitters, in just a little bit. But first, I want to let you know a little bit of the structure of today's show. There's going to be less of a pre-planned, these are the different segments that I have in the show today. I want to do a little bit more interaction with you guys. If you guys have any specific questions that you are wanting me to answer, I want to be able to answer it. I want to be able to go through and do a little bit of a deep dive into any specific players that you're wanting to be able to talk about, perhaps some observations that I've seen in Great Lakes, or just at the Los Angeles Dodgers, being able to view them in general, or some things that I know about some of the players in the system. For those of you who are new to the show, I spend a lot of time Great Lakes, the high A affiliate of the Los Angeles Dodgers, so many of the players that have come up through the system, I've had the chance to be able to watch in person and be able to watch every single one of their games in Great Lakes, get to know a little bit about them as players, and some of the areas that they really are able to excel in, and perhaps some areas that they need to be able to work in. And be able to provide a little bit of a statistical analysis in that aspect. But what I want to go ahead and start off the show today is just a little bit of an overlook, as we've done in the past with both the offense and the pitching as well, because I want to give you a little bit of a picture of where this offense is, some of the improvements, some of the areas where there could be a little bit of growth that could even be had with this offense as a unit. This is the offense right now sorted by 2026 plate appearances. What you'll notice is there's a lot of comparison 2026 to the previous 3 season stats, just because I think previous 3 seasons are usually a good indication of what a player could be capable of going forward. And if we look, we got Shohei Ohtani, Freddie Freeman, Andy Pages, Kyle Tucker, so on and so forth. These are their 2026 WRC+. Red is good, blue is not so good, and what you'll notice in 2026, most of their hitters are pretty good. Some of the exceptions that you could look at are like Kyle Tucker, well below what he's done in the past, drop of about 37 WRC plus points from what he's done in the past. We'll get into a comparison with him and some of the other outfielders in his class in just a little bit. Mookie Betts has had a drop off, and this will be something that we'll continue to evaluate as we go forward with Mookie Betts on if he's going to be able to get back to the type of hitter that he has been in the past. He's had a drop off of about 50 WRC plus points from the previous 3 seasons. Shohei Ohtani has also had a little bit of a drop off, but he's gotten a lot better over the past couple of weeks. You'll notice that a lot of these numbers, since we last did this exercise, has started to stabilize a little bit. And it's basically exactly the same WRC plus as what it had been the previous 3 seasons, meaning they're getting really good production overall, or expected production from what they got based off of what they have had in the past. 123 this year. Previous 3 seasons from these same players, about a 124 WRC plus. Expected contact, really solid as well. You can see the comparison with their WOBA and expected WOBA here as well. Ground ball percentage also right here. Not going to spend a whole lot of time on this. Overall note, even some of the players where you see a little bit of blue, I mean, with Kim, Freeland, Betts, a little bit of an exception because you would expect superstar type of talent. But Miguel Rojas, I mean, 85 to 95 from some of the guys that have been one of the later players on your bench is still really solid production for them, especially with the quality of defense that Kim, Freeland, and Rojas provide. That's not a bad outcome at all, getting close to league average type of production for them. If you go to the pitching staff with the Dodgers, it's a little bit further back, so you might have to zoom in for some of that. What you'll notice, this is their ERA. There's a whole lot of red right here. 2.98 ERA. I'm not counting Miguel Rojas. He's a position player. In fact, this is one of my things that I would not include. I wouldn't count stats that position players throw against a team's ERA. I also wouldn't count for hitters stats against a position player. I don't think that's really a fair advantage. Miguel Rojas obviously had that blow up where he didn't perform well. That's going to inflate the Dodgers ERA a little bit. Overall, really well by the Los Angeles Dodgers as an earned run average, sub 3 for everyone except Miguel Rojas. Expected ERA is a little bit higher, 3.46, but still really good measures for most people on this roster. Rookie Sasaki is a little bit higher, but he has been pitching well as of late, and he's looking like a different arm. Blake Trinan is his 5.69 expected ERA, but he has looked better as of late, and this expected ERA has gone down from close to 8 to about 5.5. He's trending in the right direction as well. Some of the other arms are players that are either injured or haven't made a huge impact on this team. So overall, if you look at just across the board, the numbers at the major league level are so good for the Dodgers across the board. You couldn't ask for much else. Strikeouts are low for this team. They don't chase a whole lot. This is a team that hits for a decent amount of power as an offense. This is a pitching staff that has one of the best strikeout minus walk percentages in the game. They strike out a lot of hitters. They also, comparatively speaking for that, don't walk a whole lot of hitters. One of the things they're working on at the minor league level, they have a lot of guys that can strike guys out, but they also give up a lot of walks at the minor league level. At the major league level, that's not an issue for the Dodgers. They're firing on all cylinders. And this is not just a major league level thing. This is something that I just posted on X. We'll go ahead, zoom in right here so you guys can go ahead and see some of this. Something that I just posted on my own X account. 2026 minor league baseball stats so far, 2 months into the season. If you look at WRC plus, which is a good measure for offensive value, the Dodgers at the minor league level have a 114 WRC plus that is first across minor league baseball. They, as an offense, have a 373 on base percentage. You could say that's a little bit skewed because one of their teams is in the Pacific Coast League. That is first in minor league baseball. Still something that you can take into account. Isolated power, first. WRC Plus, though, I think is the one that deserves the most highlight because it takes into account league environment into that picture, which they have the best offense across minor league baseball. Was not the case earlier in the season. They were like second or third behind San Francisco. They've overtaken the Giants, become first minor league offense in the minor league offense across the league. They also, while their pitching staff, some of the numbers are skewed. Again, Pacific Coast League can kind of skew some of those numbers. They have a 25.2 strikeout percentage as a unit. The Great Lakes Loons have the second highest strikeout percentage across all affiliated teams. 25.2 strikeout percentage is sixth across minor league baseball. They also have a 561 win percentage at the minor league level. And this is one of the highlights one of the reasons why I want to be able to highlight this. 4 players got highlighted for Players of the Week this past week in minor league baseball from the Dodgers affiliate. For those of you who don't know, each league rewards one hitter and one pitcher to be a Player of the Week each and every single week at the minor league level. And at each level, the Dodgers had one player that was awarded Player of the Week. For Oklahoma City, it was James Tibbs III, who continues to mash home runs in Oklahoma City and keeps trying to make a case for him to be at the major league level. At Double-A Tulsa, it was Josue de Paula, who we'll get into some of the numbers in just a second. I know there was a comment earlier about it. Josue de Paula is so good at what he is doing right now, and you thought he was good before. He's taking his game to a next level and doing things that we had talked about during the offseason, him needing to make improvements on. Boy, has he made improvements on that. Then we get Alec Makarowicz. Mac has been, this past week, really impressive. Makarowicz, if in case you don't know, relief pitcher for Great Lakes, his big thing is command. His stuff is ridiculous, but it is all about being able to get it in the zone and get command. I think he had 3 innings pitched, just 3 innings. 8 of the 9 batters that he faced, it could have been 10 batters, were all strikeouts. Almost every single batter that went up against Mac struck out. He got awarded Pitcher of the Week. A little bit of a surprise in the Midwest League for that one, but congratulations to him. And then Jaron Elkins, who has been, his power has gone to a different level for Single-A Ontario this season, got awarded Player of the Week for Ontario. Oklahoma City, Tulsa, Great Lakes, Ontario, the 4 affiliates for the Los Angeles Dodgers, all with 500 or better winning percentage. All of them in a playoff chase right now got awarded a Player of the Week. You dig down a little bit deeper because with this WRC Plus, one of the things that could be a little bit of a misconception is a lot of this comes from older players, or a lot of this isn't necessarily from the prospect type of person. Or perhaps this is a couple of players skewing some of the results for their WRC Plus or for the strikeout percentage. What I wanted to be able to do is look at the number of minor league hitters an organization have, age 23 or less, with a 120 WRC Plus, at least 20% better than a league average hitter. WRC Plus, really good measure, takes into account league environment. Also, a really good comparison type of number. Not good to compare for, say, the Florida State League and the Pacific Coast League. different run scoring environments. WRC Plus is able to account for that. If you look at the number of minor league hitters age 23 or less, 120 WRC Plus, the Dodgers have 13. You look at other organizations, Cleveland's got 12. Milwaukee and the Nationals have 10. White Sox, Tampa Bay Rays have 8. Everybody else has 7 or less, which means the Dodgers, who should not be first on this list in number of minor league hitters age 23 or less with a 120 WRC plus or greater, they should not be first, and this is 100 plate appearances. I should have made that clarification on here. They should not be first on this list. Yeah, because they drafted the latest in the draft, because they have done a lot of things to make it to where it's very difficult to be able to develop their players, they're still first on this list. You look at the players that are part of this: Sirota, Tibbs, DePaula, Harlan, Meza, Rose, Hainline, Elkins, Davelin, Wagner, Perez, George, and Co. All 120 WRC plus or greater. Great stuff by the Dodgers. They have the most quantity of good young hitters that are producing at the minor league level right now. You look at number of pitchers, same age 23 or less, with a 30% strikeout percentage. Dodgers are in the top half of minor league baseball. They have 7 of such. A couple other teams, Miami, Cleveland, Arizona, the Angels, they have more than what the Dodgers, but they're still towards the top. Look at Brady Smith, Davis Chastain, Jacob Frost, Christian Zazueta, Carias, Cruz. You look at this list, it's a lot of players at the lower levels of the minor leagues that they continue to develop. All great stuff by the Dodgers system, which continues to go out there and find a way. And I know there's been a lot of talk over the past couple of years, and we've done our fair share of trying to be able to go ahead and address some of these concerns, because I think there was a lot of concerns in the past. Oh, the Dodgers don't have the ability to be able to develop position players. That narrative is getting completely rewritten this season with the production that we're seeing from Andy Pages being one of the most valuable players in the game of baseball, to Miguel Vargas over at the White Sox being one of the most valuable players on that team and one of the most valuable third basemen in the game of baseball. Michael Busch still killing it with the Chicago Cubs. Other players are making contributions for their team across the league. DeLuca, Vivas is making contributions for their team. We're seeing some of the other players, like Rushing was able to do when he came up early in the season for the Dodgers. Freeland has been close to a league average type of hitter. There are a lot of players that over the past couple of years that the Dodgers system has been able to develop and been able to produce that are actually sticking and having some success in the big leagues, even though the Dodgers should be last on this list based off of where they actually draft and how they're able to acquire a lot of these talents. They have more limitations, and yet they're able to do more with the less that they have because of the infrastructure that they have built. The Dodgers are firing on all cylinders, and it is not just because of the money that they spent. It is because of the personnel that they have, and it is because of the development that they are able to get these players through. It is awesome to be able to watch. And, for example, because I know one of the comments, I believe Honey Oats was talking about Josue DePaula, just want to give you a little bit of an insight as to some of the numbers that Josue DePaula has produced this year. Because I especially when it gets to different conversations. For example, since we're in the month of June, there's going to be talks about different trades that the Dodgers can make. And certainly one of the names that's going to come up often and a ton is going to be Tarek Skubal. And I'm certain that one of the players that the Tigers are probably going to be interested in is Josue DePaula, because this year DePaula, who is just Texas League Player of the Week, Hitter of the Week, has been going off. For context, last year at the minor league level, we'll just go with his numbers with Great Lakes, because that was the full season that he had, or almost a full season. 4 games with Tulsa. Let's just go with Great Lakes. 98 games played, 142 WRC plus, 263, 406, 421. It was a 19% walk percentage and a 20% strikeout percentage. One of the things, however, when he dug a little bit closer into some of the numbers with Josue DePaula, he's not swinging a whole lot. 38% swing percentage for him. Also, if you look at some of the power numbers for DePaula that year, just 12 home runs in the season, 158 isolated power. It wasn't an enormous amount of power that DePaula had. He was relying on Midwest League pitchers not being able to throw strikes to him, as well as trying to avoid him, and then his ability to be able to get base hits off of that. This season, he is tapping into some of his power. This past Sunday, I believe he had a 2-home run game, which kind of propelled him to Texas League Player of the Week. Overall in the season, he's already at 8 home runs, with about half of the season to go. He is currently hitting .323 with a .424 on base percentage and a .545 slugging percentage. That is a 159 WRC plus. He's gone from a 142 to a 159. And if you dig around with some of the periphery numbers, this makes it even more so impressive because he's hitting for more power, 222 ISO. That's about a 70-point jump from what his isolated power was in Great Lakes. But he's also doing this without sacrificing swing and miss. In fact, he's making the exact same amount of contact while striking out less than what he was doing with Great Lakes last year. His strikeout percentage for Great Lakes last year was about 20%. With Tulsa this year, it's 13.5%. And he's walking more at about a 14, or he's not walking more, he's still walking a lot, I should say, about a 14.5% clip. He's doing this, he's swinging the bat a little bit more. Was at 38% last year, it's close to 44% this year. Which means that he's still walking a lot, he's striking out a lot, striking out less, still making about the same level of contact and being more productive while tapping into more power this year. And you know, one of the more underrated aspects of DePaulo's game, he already has 16 stolen bases. He's on pace for another 30 stolen base season. This is the impact that Josue DePaulo Depot has been able to provide, essentially a 160 WRC plus type of player at his age 21 season for the Tulsa Drillers. Just recently, last week, turned 21 years old. Really good young prospect that is coming up through the system. And while his defense isn't going to be necessarily the greatest, he has the impact ability with his bat, and he is making significant strides this year to show that, hey, maybe he's a player where towards the end of this season, he can make that promotion to Oklahoma City. He's going to have to be added to be protected from the Rule 5 draft to the 40-man roster after this season. So maybe he starts making those strides a little bit early, especially if he's able to tap into some of that pull side power. They were a little bit slow on his promotion with Great Lakes, wanting him to be able to work on some of these different aspects with the Loons. Perhaps they're a little bit more aggressive as they go up to Tulsa, and we could start to see Josue DePaulo be part of the conversation. And with a player like this, whose game is becoming much more round and complete, is this a player that you're wanting to give up on? Or is this a player that you want to be involved with the future of the Los Angeles Dodgers because of some of the talks, because of some of the negotiations with a potential salary cap across Major League Baseball? I don't think that's going to happen. However, that remains a possibility. And if that is a possibility, do you want to give up on some of your young players that are going to be towards the Major League ready over the next couple of years for somebody that potentially you might win the World Series without that individual player? These are going to be some of the luxury conversations that the Los Angeles Dodgers are going to be able to have over the next couple of weeks. Josue DePaulo is hitting about as well as you could, but he's not the best hitting outfielder within the Dodgers system right now. The current player who has had the best year as an outfield prospect has been, you can actually go with two of them. You can go with James Tibbs III, or you can go with Mike Sirota. Mike Sirota, 179 WRC plus. He was a 180 WRC plus hitter with Great Lakes this year through 50 plate appearances with Tulsa. He's a 180 WRC plus hitter with Tulsa. Mike Sirota, he's 23, age 23 season. He's ridiculous at the plate. If you go with James Tibbs III, overall in the season, one of the best power hitters across the game of baseball, or minor league baseball. 170 WRC plus hitter for Oklahoma City. He has been unbelievable at the plate. A lot of different great problems for the Dodgers to be able to have. And when I try to paint this picture of the things going well for the Dodgers, it's because things are. And because the Dodgers can do just about anything that they want to at the trade deadline, or they can do nothing at the trade deadline, and that still would be okay because there is a plan for that. I know everybody wants to make the big move, and I will probably advocate for them to be able to make a big move, especially if it's an impact player like a Skubal, and especially if it looks like there's going to be if there is any sort of indication of some setbacks for a Glasnow or for a Snell, which I'm not saying that there are. I have zero information onto that. And my point with this is the Dodgers have the ability to say no, and they probably would be okay with being able to say no at this trade deadline. Okay, that's a little bit big scale type of picture. Now I want to get to one other conversation before we go ahead and turn it into a little bit of a Q&A. Want to be able to turn that into. I want to talk a little bit of Tommy Edman. Tommy Edman is going to be coming back from injury over the course of the next couple of weeks. It sounded like they're wanting to get him close to the 50 plate appearance at Oklahoma City level, give him a couple of weeks over there, which would be several different weeks down the timeline, or maybe about 2 weeks or so down the way for a Tommy Edman to be able to return, or when the Dodgers potentially could bring him back. If that is the timeline, that brings up a very obvious question. Who does Tommy Edman replace on this roster? We've seen a couple of different injuries and a little bit of a shakeup on this roster. Obviously, Kike Hernandez came back, then he got injured. Basically, Espinal took his spot. Hae-Sung Kim was optioned essentially for Alex Freeland, is what the case was for that. Alex Freeland was, as reported by several different writers, I think Fabian Ardaya was reporting it, friend of the show. Alex Freeland was on his way to Los Angeles before the Kike Hernandez injury and was essentially going to take the spot of Hae-Sung Kim over for him. We might get into that a little bit in just a minute. But Alex Freeland takes the spot of Hae-Sung Kim, and then Ryan Ward took the spot for Teoscar Hernandez on this roster. So you have Espinal, you have Ward, and you have Freeland. And Tommy Edman is going to replace one of those players. Now, I don't think that is going to be Ryan Ward at this point. One, because I don't think Tommy Edman is going to play a ton of outfield. Now, he just recently played a little bit of center field, but I don't think the outfielder that they need is a primary center fielder, because Andy Pages is probably the second best defensive center fielder in the game of baseball right now. As crazy as that might seem to people from a year ago, he has been one of the best defensive center fielders in the game of baseball, which means that I think they need a little bit more of a corner outfield. And I don't think they want to play Tommy Edman in a corner at this point. Not that he's not capable of being able to do that, but because I think they want a little bit of depth. If they option Ryan Ward, the only three prime outfielders that you would have on the roster would be Call, would be Pages, and Tucker. Not really with additional ability to be able to have another outfielder at this point. Maybe a little Santiago Espinal, maybe a little Tommy Edman, but I don't think that's what they want to be able to go with them. So then the decision eventually is likely going to come down to Espinal and Freeland for Tommy Edman's spot. And I think this is going to be a fascinating thing to be able to watch over the next week or two, depending on when Tommy Edman is going to be able to come back, because there actually is a case for either one of them to be able to make the roster. And I actually am going to make a little bit of the case, not just because I've made the case for Alex Freeland in the past and been one of the sole people to make that case for Alex Freeland to get the job over Hae-Sung Kim out of spring training, for example. But I want to be able to provide a little bit of an insight as to what is needed for this roster spot, or what Tommy Edman is going to be able to provide for this roster, and how that matches with Espinal and Freeland, so then we perhaps aren't necessarily surprised by a potential decision that could be made for the Dodgers. So let's take a little bit of the profile of Tommy Edman. He's versatile. He's a good defender at what he's able to do. He's about a league average type of hitter. However, and this is something we talked about during the course of the offseason, what side does Tommy Edman hit better against? Does he hit better as a left-handed hitter, or does he hit better as a right-handed hitter? If you go by career, or if you go by the past 3 seasons, which I'm going to use the past 3 seasons because this is what I used during the course of the offseason, you look at Tommy Edman, his WRC plus, he's been about a 90 WRC plus hitter over the past 3 years. Against right-handed pitchers, he's been a 79 WRC plus. versus left-handed pitchers, he's been about a 111 WRC plus, meaning Tommy Edman is significantly better against left-handed pitching than he is against right-handed pitching, which means that the days where you want to give Max Muncy a day off, those are the days that you want Tommy Edman in there. You want Tommy Edman against right-handed pitching over left-handed pitching based on what he's done, not just over the past couple of years, but based on what he's done throughout the entirety of his career. He is, I think, and this is just my opinion, a little bit better in a, not a strict, but more of a platoon type of role than he is as a sole everyday type of hitter, because I think he's a better hitter as a right-handed bat than he is as a left-handed bat going against right-handed pitching. Which means that if you take that into account, because I think a lot of people are seeing as Tommy Edman being primarily a second baseman and then slotting immediately into Alex Freeland's spot. Freeland can easily be optioned. You assume that Tommy Edman is good against right-handed pitching, so then that fits kind of nice, kind of easily. However, what if that's not thinking about it completely correctly? What if Tommy Edman, yes, is going to take up a good chunk of second base time at the major league level, but what if it's not 100% of the time, especially coming back off of injury? Then it comes down to a question of, okay, when do I want, if Tommy Edman has a little bit of limited time at the major league level, what plate appearances do I want to primarily put him up against? Well, it's probably going to be versus left-handed pitching, because Tommy Edman over the past couple of years has been better against lefties than he has against righties, which if that is the case, this could be the case for why, as unfair as it is, the Dodgers decide in a couple of weeks to potentially move off of Santiago Espinal, especially because Espinal, and this is one of the things to watch for, in his very limited appearances against left-handed pitching, has not really done well against lefties. I believe it's just a 10 WRC plus against left-handed pitching in 31 plate appearances, which is the prime role that Santiago Espinal is here for. He's actually doing much better against righties in very, very limited time against righties than he is against lefties, which he has not been able to have any sort of success on. He has to take advantage of whatever opportunities he's given versus left-handed pitching, because it would make sense for Tommy Edman to be able to fill in that type of role. For example, versus lefties, you can slot over Miguel Rojas over to third base, have Tommy Edman be at second base, perhaps to give Max Muncy days off when he's needed to give days off. And then for Alex Freeland, with this case, and in this scenario, this is the scenario where, okay, Tommy Edman comes back. Maybe it's not Alex Freeland who gets optioned, because he's been about a league average hitter against right-handed pitching as a left-handed bat. Good kind of platoon type of option potentially for Tommy Edman. And while this wouldn't be a strict platoon, look at what they're doing with a Ryan Ward and Alex Call type of scenario right now, where that is a platoon option, but it's not a 100% platoon that they're going with, where Ryan Ward is going to get a good chunk of good plate appearances versus right-handed pitching, but not necessarily all of them. Right now, unless things change significantly, what I think is going to happen when Edman comes back, assuming that happens before Akike, which it will, or likely will, or before a Teoscar Hernandez type of return, which it likely will, I actually think pair-wise, it probably makes a little bit more sense for Edman to be able to take the spot of Santiago Espinal, just because of how they are able to match up well against each other. Edman does a lot of the things well that Santiago Espinal does well, primarily with the type of pitchers that he hits well against, and that could keep additional opportunities and additional investment for somebody like an Alex Freeland, who does not need any additional seasoning in Oklahoma City, who he needs to be able to develop at the major league level, which we saw some good signs. And overall in the season, while it has been up and down quite a bit, it's still a 94 WRC plus for Alex Freeland on the season. And defensively, and this is something that I take into account, defensive run saves, outs above average, field and run value. If you scale those to 162, take the average of them, Alex Freeland right now is on pace for basically a 17 defensive run save season at second base. He has 5 defensive runs saved. outs above average 3, field and run value 3. If you average those out, scale them to 162, he's on pace for 17. That is incredible value that you're able to provide right there. Could be something that could happen. The other side of the argument that you could make is you want to keep as much talent as you can in the organization. And with Espinal, especially if you feel like he can provide some value, or you just want to keep players across your roster, the very easy thing that you could do, option Alex Freeland. His role is going to be limited, especially if the idea is Tommy Edman's going to play basically every single day. Which, if we're talking about Tommy Edman playing every single day, what would be looking for based on his career past? Maybe around or just below a league average type of hitter with elite defense at second base. Kind of exactly the same thing that Freeland, just overall in the season, has been able to provide. That is what you're going to be expecting for Tommy Edman. And then for the backup type of thing, perhaps if it's a, hey, 1 game a week, we don't necessarily know what to do with you, go ahead and sit on the bench. Perhaps that's a scenario that the Dodgers could go down. I will also say, I said the same thing last week when the Dodgers decided to designate for assignment Santiago Espinal. Tyler Fitzgerald in Oklahoma City is hitting really well. And he could fill in very similar type of shoes that a Santiago Espinal has. So this is just a little bit for things that will happen in the future. It's not going to happen immediately. But don't be surprised if the decision is not to send Alex Freeland back down because the organization could. If he struggles over the next 2 weeks, that very well could be the case with Alex Freeland. But that's not what my prediction is, at least what I'm kind of weighing. I think it's probably 70-30 the Dodgers decide to designate for assignment Espinal over sending down Alex Freeland, just because I think there could be enough plate appearances that they could make it work with Freeland, while also being able to rest a little bit Tommy Edman and putting him in advantageous matchups, which end up pairing well with somebody like a Freeland, or if they decided to recall back up Kim. I think that there's a really good pairing that could work out right there to where it makes it a little bit redundant with Espinal's role, especially if he can't hit against left-handed pitching. Just some of my thoughts right there. Perhaps you have a little bit of difference of opinion with there. All right, now I want to take some time to be able to go to any sort of questions that you guys have. If there's questions that pop up or things that stood out to you about the show or things around the world of Dodgers baseball, I'd love to be able to hear and answer some of the thoughts that you guys have and just be able to dive into some of the topics with Dodgers baseball. Obviously something that I'm passionate about, something that I love to be able to do, and you guys love to be able to do as well. Honey Oats, DePaula is insane, 100%. But going back to the beginning of the chat, leave it down in the comments. I'll get to it as soon as I possibly can. Daniel Berry Sports Highlights, what's up? Happy Monday to you. JC Gonzalez, happy Monday. Lashiva Jones, let's go Dodgers. Showtime LA. Hey Austin, hope all is well for you. Do you think DePaula can force the Org's hand with the promotion, or will be a repeat of last year where he spends the vast majority at one level? So talked a little bit about Josue DePaula earlier, and just briefly mentioned this. One of the difficulties with this aspect is the Dodgers have a lot of players at Oklahoma City to where it's very much a clog in the organization being able to promote any type of outfielders. You saw this with the decision to promote like Mike Sirota. The Dodgers sent down Cole Myers. Cole Myers didn't really deserve to be sent down to Great Lakes, and that is not something the organization does really at all, is sending guys back a level. But in order to promote Mike Sirota, they had to figure out some aspect, some sort of way to be able to get them to the next level. And if you look at Oklahoma City's roster, there's a ton of different outfielders that they have. I think the situation with DePaula, if he shows, and he has shown, so the ability to be able to make even better decisions that he's made in the past, striking out less, being able to tap into the power a little bit more consistently. I think they're going to be patient with this process, but I don't think they're going to allow it to take forever. They were very patient with Great Lakes, and I don't think it's just look at his production, look at the WRC plus, look at the batting average, look at that type aspect. I think it's very specific aspects of his game that you want to be able to see improvements. Perhaps it's a defensive side of things, in which case you have to be a little bit more detailed and watching some of these games. Perhaps they're working on that aspect with him and want to be able to focus on some of his jumps, focus on that aspect. Or maybe it's hey, we want to see you go ahead and post a little bit more pull side type of power and be able to tap into that a little bit more consistently and regularly. I want you to be able to swing a little bit more. I think it's going to take some seasoning, and I wouldn't expect any sort of movement probably until at least trade deadline type of season, or at least give it another month or so for DePaula. But if he continues to post 160 plus WRC plus with a sub 15% strikeout percentage, and if he gets to 15 plus home runs by the end of July, I think at that point, the organization, especially with some of the decisions that they could make at the trade deadline, could look at the situation and say, we want to give you a little bit of a taste of AAA baseball because we want you to start getting ready for that. Not with the anticipation that you're going to be on the big league club immediately in the 2027 season in Los Angeles, but because we want you to start getting ready. And that is starting of getting ready type of process, especially with the time frame of Teoscar Hernandez. His contract is going to run up after the 2027 season. I know there's a club option. Dodgers probably decline that club option. We'll see exactly what happens with that. There could potentially be an outfield opening spot. I think that's probably what we're looking like with Josue DePaula at this point. Although, who knows? He is hitting and deserves to be wherever he is at, whether it's with Tulsa, being able to dominate. He deserves the ability to be able to continue to dominate, focus on his skill sets, or if he gets that promotion, he will have earned that as well. It just depends on what the organization is specifically looking at. Al Minerva, good to see you as well. David Lee, good to see you as well. Super happy for Ryan Ward. That's exactly right, JC Gonzalez. Wardo deserved that moment more than just about anybody, hitting the home run in the game yesterday in Dodger Stadium, in the organization that drafted him, that helped develop him as a player, and the organization that he spent since 2019 trying to prove and earn a spot, and since 2023 with Oklahoma City, he spent a lot of time in this organization. I hope that he's able to go ahead and continue to find playing time at the major league level somehow. I hope at the trade deadline, and this is assuming that some of these other players are able to come back healthy, I hope he finds a new home at the trade deadline, and the Dodgers are able to do right. And if not at the trade deadline, this upcoming offseason, because I don't want to see him in Oklahoma City in 2027. I want to see him in a major league uniform for now and beyond to try to at least earn a spot at the big league level somehow. Let's see. Shiva Jones, how about an amazing Max Muncy? He's going to surpass Eric Karros in home runs as a Dodger. Max Muncy is ridiculous with his power department. This offense would not be the same, and was not the same last year without Max Muncy. Thank goodness he had a little bit of padding on that wrist when he got hit by that pitch, and that it was not a serious long-term type of injury, because the power, impact, and patience that he's able to provide at the plate is one that is... It really is difficult to be able to quantify just how valuable that is for them. Pee-wee, I'm kind of frustrated watching Tucker. It seems like he doesn't have a purpose when he's in the batter's box. And where's the power? Just has 4 home runs in the season. Kyle Tucker, to this point in the season, 2 months into the season, has been a disappointment for the Los Angeles Dodgers. And he certainly has to get better as a player. I don't think he's performing the worst out of the bunch of different options that the Dodgers have, but certainly you would expect a player who the past couple of seasons has posted close to a 145 WRC plus, has had the ability to hit 20 to 30 home run type of power. There just isn't a whole lot of that. He's also not hitting right-handed pitching. The pitchers that he's hitting well against are lefties. What the Dodgers needed this offseason was somebody that could hit right-handed pitching well. They got somebody who could hit both well based on what he had done the previous couple of seasons, but he's not hitting righties that well. Just a 94 WRC plus against right-handed pitching. The power doesn't necessarily seem to be there. And with Kyle Tucker, it's all about patience. It is about not necessarily striking out and doing a lot of the little things well that kind of go unnoticed. And he's not doing some of those things really well right now. What I want to be able to provide you is a little bit of overview, and this is something I looked at, something I was able to update. This is Kyle Tucker in comparison to some of the players this previous offseason who were there were rumors to be either the Dodgers were interested in or potential options the Dodgers could have turned to during the past offseason. So Kyle Tucker, 109 WRC plus on the season, a little bit better than league average, a lot more to be desired based on what he had done the past couple of seasons, 146. Look at these options. Kyle Tucker, based on what he had done 2023 to 2025, far and away the best hitter out of the bunch. He has not been the best hitter, but he hasn't been the worst option. Bo Bichette, 69 WRC plus on the season. Cody Bellinger has been way better than what my expectations were, and I will fully admit that I was low on Cody Bellinger going into this offseason. He has far and away surpassed what I expected out of him. 141 WRC plus for Bellinger. Bader, just a 52. Yastrzemski with a 103. Mike Yastrzemski is doing a lot of these things about as well as what Kyle Tucker has been able to do this season. Big turnaround over the past couple of weeks for Yastrzemski. Mullins hasn't been good. Buxton, 142 WRC plus. Stephen Kwan, 76. Wilyer Abreu, 114. Jaron Duran, 89. Brendan Donovan, 146, but spent a lot of time on the injured list. Luis Robert is injured right now, 95. Taylor Ward with 121. What this is not intended to do is to say that Kyle Tucker is the perfect player, or to say that Kyle Tucker is the best player out of the bunch. He hasn't been the best player out of the bunch playing time, but it could have been worse for the Dodgers right now. And he's at least done enough to keep this offense the best offense in the game of baseball. We can both simultaneously think that and still know that there's more for him and want more out of Kyle Tucker, because we should see more out of Kyle Tucker. The power has been one to where that's probably the biggest thing with Kyle Tucker that is missing right now. He's just not hitting it for any power right now. And if he's not hitting for any power, you see a real decrease in the production that he has. So totally fair observation. Better than league average type of hitter. If the Dodgers had a bunch of those players, which they do, they're going to be a pretty good offense. So expect more, but still count the blessings that the Dodgers have on offense and know that it's better than what it was last year. Elishua Jones, when Ed brings up the question, we're able to address that when Edman returns. Who gets moved off of the active roster? My guess, barring from injury, was Santiago Espinal. Went into a detail with that a couple of minutes ago. You can go back and look into that. Josue De Paula, Showtime LA, has nearly identical pull air percentage to Shohei Ohtani. He has arrived. That is a massive development for Josue De Paula because he has the power, but it's been a lot of opposite field type of hits, a little bit more ground balls for De Paula than what you necessarily would like. If he starts pulling the ball in the air, you can really tap into that power. And with the hit tool that he has, the presence that he brings to the box, his ability to not strike out and really work at counts, holy cow, De Paula is really scary as a hitting prospect. He's gone to a next level. He really has elevated his game in Double-A Tulsa. Honey Oats, all the prospects are doing well in Double-A. Hopefully George comes back sooner than expected. Yeah, it sucked with what happened to Kendall George, and I won't get necessarily a whole lot into detail with a whole lot of that aspect, but that can't happen at all to these guys, especially with these guys that are fighting for their livelihoods, fighting for their lives. You can't have any type of situation where these guys are in any sort of situation where things can happen. And it's unfortunate. That was unexpected. That was not necessarily the fault of the Tulsa Drillers. But that type of stuff can't happen. And you have to do what you can to be able to protect your players. And I'm sure that the organizations across the Dodgers are going to continue to do what they can to protect their players. And hopefully KG is going to be able to come back sooner than expected. He was somebody last Monday, before the injury took place, that we had talked about as being a very dark horse contender for potentially joining the Dodgers in a postseason roster type of situation. Because one of the only aspects that the Dodgers don't necessarily do well at is base running. As stealing bases. Who's one of the best base stealers in the world? Kendall George. And he goes down with that injury. Really disappointing that happened, especially with the continuation of his breakout that he had started in Great Lakes, was continuing in Tulsa, and then that happened. So that really was difficult to be able to watch. Wealthy Wisdom, hard to say which outfield prospect to trade. That's a really good question. The Dodgers also know that they can't keep all of these guys forever, but they also have some time, because I think aside from Josue De Paula, just about all of them are not eligible for the Rule 5 draft until after next season, after the 2027 season, which means they have some time, which means they don't necessarily have to make the decision this trade deadline, and they don't necessarily have to make the decision next trade deadline as well. They can wait this out and say, hey, we know that all these guys probably are not going to all stick at the major league level. Let's see who is going to perform the best and give ourselves the best chance to have an outfielder or two following Kyle Tucker, following Teoscar Hernandez, to be able to make an impact at the major league level. They could wait it out as long as they could wait it out that long if the Dodgers wanted to as an organization. Will they? Probably not, if they have an opportunity to get a player that can make a big impact for their team. Let's see. JC Gonzalez, who do you think is the first outfielder to get called up to AAA? I'm assuming from Tulsa. At this point, so the question, my guess for that would probably be, oh man, this is difficult because it's likely going to be either DePaula or it's going to be Sirota would be the two options that you have. I think Zaire Hope is still working on some things with Tulsa, still having a productive season, but I think there's some swing and miss type of concerns that they probably want to keep him down. KG obviously went down with the injury. Kendall George. Chris Newell has had a little bit of struggles. He would have been probably my first option and could have been one to get promoted prior to the season, but I think with some of the struggles that he has, I don't think that's necessarily the case. So I think it comes down to DePaula or Sirota. Sirota has had a lot less time than DePaula, but he is 2 years older than what Josue DePaula is. So I think either one of them. I don't have an answer to that because Mike Sirota also has been one of the best hitters across minor league baseball in the game. So one of those guys probably going to get promoted at some point. Mike Sirota, a little bit of time, and I wouldn't expect either of them to get promoted probably until after the trade deadline type of time period. Elias Jones, I'm looking forward to the return of Honeybun, Evan Phillips. Hopefully you'll be extremely effective. Difficult thing with that is, does this bullpen even need an Evan Phillips? I mean, yes, Evan Phillips is awesome, and I'm not saying that he wouldn't be a welcome addition to the bullpen, but there's just been so many guys that have performed well. Obviously, return of Evan Phillips is going to help this team, and just having a large quantity of players that you could turn to is going to be a good thing for the Dodgers as they go down the stretch, because quantity helps account for some of the injuries that took place and helps be able to make up for somebody like Brusdar Graterol, who just went under another surgery for him, for the injuries like Brock Stewart that underwent. Having a large quantity allows you to do a lot of things. Honey Oates says Mike Sirota is better than Kyle Tucker. I don't know necessarily right now. We haven't seen Mike Sirota in AAA, but 180 WRC plus every stop that he goes is pretty good. Showtime out Austin, not gonna lie, I don't know too much about Nico Perez coming into the season. Fair to say that he's been one of the best breakouts in the system so far. I also think Harlan and Co need to be with the Loons. Yes, so Nico Perez, if you guys don't know, second base, he play a little bit of third base prospect for Great Lakes, high affiliate of the Loons. He entered the season. He was somebody that I had identified. Didn't really watch a whole lot of him in Rancho Cucamonga the year before, but he posted some solid numbers, 117 WRC plus, and so it was okay, this is somebody keep an eye out for, just to look at a little bit. And he showed up in Great Lakes this season, and through the first month and a half or so was on fire. He's a second baseman. Not necessarily the tallest of guys, but he's got a decent amount of power. 6 home runs on the season. He steals a lot of bases, really good at stealing bases, draws a decent amount of walks. His swing has been a little bit off as of late over the last week or two, just with some of the results that he's been able to produce. But still a player, scrappy, hungry type of player, just a fun player within the system. Overall, as part of that group that we talked about earlier, less than 23 years old, 120 or greater WRC plus. I think he's still in the 130 something for him. He's a good up the middle type of prospect. Another really good up the middle prospect that the Dodgers have in the system, Elijah Hangline. We talked about him last year. I talked about him quite a bit when he was with Great Lakes. I want to show you a little bit of an awesome moment that happened with the Tulsa Drillers this past week. So all the Dodgers affiliates are fighting for playoff spots. Oklahoma City, Tulsa, Great Lakes, Ontario. First half is going to end mid-June. Tulsa has been fighting for a playoff spot, and they went through a big rally in the 9th inning against Northwest Arkansas, and it was punctuated by this moment for Elijah Hangline, shortstop prospect for the Los Angeles Dodgers. We're going to go ahead and watch this right here because this was a great moment for them. And actually, we're actually going to have a little bit of audio. I won't play full audio of this, but I want you guys to be able to hear this type of moment that Elijah Hangline was able to have for this organization. You can hear the crowd right there just going absolutely crazy for Elijah Hangline. We'll go ahead and mute that right there. Tulsa went through a massive comeback in that 8th inning in the game on Saturday. Ended up being punctuated grand slam for Elijah Hangline. Team is going crazy. They have 3 weeks left in the season. They are a game and a half up of Arkansas to be able to go back to the playoffs. They swept their series this past week. Elijah Hangline had this moment, and it's not just been this moment, that swing for Elijah Hangline this year. He also has been somebody that has hit incredibly well for the Tulsa Drillers. 138 WRC plus. This is after a season where he posted 135, 140 WRC plus on the season. Middle infield, shortstop type prospect. Not a whole lot of people are talking about Elijah Hangline, but you should know about him. Similar to how you should know about Nico Perez, 131 WRC plus on the season for Nico. And that's after a little bit of a slower past couple of weeks for him. Let's go into some of the other comments, some of the other questions. Rojas has been such a positive influence for the Dodgers. Gotta love it. Absolutely. Honey Oats asks, is DePaula the next Jordan? Speaking of Jordan Alvarez, I'm not going to make that comparison or put that type of expectation on Josue DePaula. I don't think that's necessarily fair to him individually as a person, just because Jordan Alvarez is one of the best players in the game of baseball. And if DePaula doesn't reach that, then everybody assumes that DePaula is some sort of fail, some sort of bust. This is the type of thing that happened to Diego Cartaya. However, DePaula, with some of the signs that we were seeing, is on a potential path. Not saying that he's going to reach that, but that's not completely impossible based on what we've seen with some of the numbers that he had. One of the things that makes Jordan Alvarez so great is walks a lot, hits for a lot of power, doesn't strike out a whole lot. Right now, DePaula walks a lot, doesn't strike out a whole lot, starting to hit for a little bit of power. DePaula is really good. Be patient, though, and don't rush the process before it needs to be concluded. Just allow the system, allow the process to be able to play out is what I want to be able to preach. Honey Oak's probably the most stacked the system has been since the Belly Seager type of days. Casey with what the Dodgers have been given at this point. Sammy Boy Smith, Mike Sirota's next Bernie Williams, Paul Molitor maybe. I know Casey has made some comparisons with Mike Sirota in the past. I don't remember exactly who he compared him to, but Sirota is really good as a player. Showtime LA, AMAC is still walking too many guys, but he's producing, so you'll take it. He's producing. The walks are still there a little bit for Alex Makarowicz, but the strikeout stuff is there, and he's made strides this season. You can see it starting to dial in for Mac this series in Dayton. Obviously, Midwest League Pitcher of the Week. That was given to him for a reason, and he's starting to gain a little bit more confidence and starting to get a little bit more comfortable, and hopefully, as the weather heats up, he can continue to do this and eventually get a promotion to Tulsa or lead Great Lakes in a playoff run for them during the process of this. Honey Oats, DePaula is the best hitting prospect in baseball. I don't compare everyone to all across the league, but he's certainly a good one. Pee-wee, when will Riverine be called up? He's ready. He absolutely is ready. It's when the organization wants to give him an opportunity. One thing to look out for in this series with Arizona, Arizona kind of league average across a lot of different metrics for them, both offensively and pitching wise. However, one of the aspects in which there's a pretty clear contrast is them righties versus lefties. Diamondbacks are one of the best teams against left-handed pitching. They have, I think, a 120 WRC plus versus lefties. It's going to be a really good test for Eric Lauer, who went up against one of the worst offenses against lefties. Now he's got to go up against the third best offense against left-handed pitching in Arizona. However, Arizona really struggles against righties. Just a 88 WRC plus against righties, one of the worst offenses in the game of baseball against righties. Could there be something, and I don't really remember when exactly River Ryan's last start was. Could there be something, especially with it being a 4-game series followed by a 3-game series against the Angels? Could it be something where they want to give River Ryan an additional start, perhaps hold back on Justin Robleski until Friday's game so that maybe he doesn't have to go up against a team that does really well against lefties, and perhaps throw in River Ryan to give some additional rest? Could be an option that they have, depending on when River Ryan's last start was. That would be something that I wouldn't be completely surprised if that is the case. However, it's really tough to be able to find room onto this roster, but River Ryan deserves to be called up whenever he does. He's earning this spot. Pee-wee, I wouldn't trade tons for Skubal if Glasnow and Snell are healthy. What do the Dodgers need Skubal? Take it or leave it. It should be the Dodgers' attitude. I will say, when dealing with Scott Harris of the Detroit Tigers, he's probably going to take it down to the last possible second, and he's going to be asking for the most amount of stuff possible. So it's going to be the Dodgers to set their own price and be able to make a choice whether they want to go over that or not. And I don't think they necessarily want to go over a certain price point for something that they feel confident, especially if the guys are healthy, that they can go ahead and have some success. And who's to say, and assuming the playoff rotation is in whatever order, Yamamoto, Ohtani, Glasnow, and Snell, who's to say that some of the other guys couldn't step up in those type of moments and be able to find some type of success? Roki is starting to find some success. Not saying that you should pitch him in that moment. Robo has been successful this season. Not saying you should pitch him. Sheehan has been successful in the past. Maybe he figures things out and you feel comfortable with him. River Ryan could potentially be an option. They don't have to make this move. It would be a luxury move that they could make. And we'll see if they actually end up doing that, or if they end up needing him down the line. Drew Rockwell says they're not getting Skubal and don't need him. Just need Snell and Tyler to stop getting hurt. Could be as simple as that, and we could keep the Dodgers farm system as is. Perhaps use that with some of the decisions that the Dodgers have made to help reinforce the farm system. For example, if all the outfielders are blocked, perhaps you use that while their status is super high to get a bunch of really good younger type prospects to keep this system continue to be really well. Part of the strategy with some of the players that the Dodgers have made with player acquisition, they've gotten players that are a long ways away from being Rule 5 draft eligible, so they can keep those players as long as they can within the organization without losing them to that Rule 5 draft. Perhaps this is a strategy of, we're going to be limited because we don't need a whole lot at the major league level, but instead some of the trades are perhaps some of these prospects or some of the block players at the major league level, and trade them for players that are a little bit younger that aren't going to be Rule 5 eligible for a little bit. Could be a strategy that they go ahead and undertake. Drew Rockwell, I think Roki is fixed. He has shown a lot over the past couple of weeks, and that has been awesome. With the emergence of Roki and River Ryan, we don't need Skubal. I'd rather see them flourish and be our ace along with Yamamoto. That's going to be something that will be of conversation going forward, and I don't think it's necessarily we have to go out and trade a DePaula and a River Ryan and plus for a Tarek Skubal. That if that is the case, it's going to be very difficult to look at the numbers that DePaula had, look at the potential need that you could have in the outfielder in the future, and look at the potential changing landscape of Major League Baseball and say, yeah, let's go ahead and do that. Or you could say, hey, let's go ahead and make that move because we have the chance to three-peat, and we don't want anybody else to get Tarek Skubal. Dodgers have the decision, and they could choose whatever choice that they want. I don't necessarily have a strong strategy at this point. Alnova, yeah, Austin, you're Team Freeland. I'm still with Kim. The comment, we'll get into some of that a little bit of a different date, and that's not an anti-Hason Kim type of conversation. That's just I want to make sure that people are appreciating the talent that Freeland has, and not saying because he's not immediately a really good hitter at the major league level that he's not a valuable player to this team, nor a fit potentially to this Dodgers team. I want to make sure that we are providing the argument for both players. And if there's a lot of people calling for an argument for Hae-Sung Kim, which online there's a lot of people who really appreciate what Hae-Sung Kim is able to provide, totally fair, and you should be able to appreciate what Hae-Sung Kim is able to provide. I want to be able to provide the other side of the coin as well and be able to make that argument. So that's in part one of the reasons why I pushed so highly for him to be able to receive the credit that he's due. Let's see. B.O. Boy just reads some of the threats to Tanner Scott's family after he lost that game. Terrible. Yeah, it is. The threats that came to Tanner Scott absolutely need to stop. And if you're doing anything close to reaching out to a player's family with anything but we appreciate you for who you are, you need to stop that immediately. And that is absolutely terrible. Yeah, just feel awful for his family and hope that is able to stop, and there's been some protection put around him. Let's see. Al Minerva, where are the loud Sasaki downers? Patience, my Dodgers dogs. Roki is a special one. He is doing a lot more than what I expected out of Roki Sasaki. I very much was one who looked at the regular season numbers, looked at even the low strikeout percentage in the postseason, and had my doubts. Proved me wrong a little bit. And Roki, hope he's able to continue to, with some of the changes that he made, the harder throwing splitter, I think has opened up a little bit of a different level for him. Savvy Boy Smith, this will be the last question that we get to before I have to get going today. What's your prediction for this series? Tie, win, or loss? Dodgers versus Diamondbacks. I think the easy prediction would probably be a 3-1 series victory for the Dodgers. Arizona just coming off a series sweep. They were just swept after having a really good run, a lot against Colorado and San Francisco. I think Arizona, just overall as a matchup, could match up well against somebody like an Eric Lauer. I think that's one of those games where you could give it to, could give a little bit of an advantage to Arizona just with how good their offense is. Tonight, Edgardo Rodriguez is going on the mound for Arizona. And then with some of the other aspects of the Diamondbacks team, I think they're a solid team, although overall there's not any aspect of their game that I think is overall, this is amazing. Corbin Carroll is amazing as an individual player. They have some really solid players. Ketel Marte is a good player. Nolan Arenado is putting together a much better season than what I think most people kind of anticipated going in for him. Juan Murillo, who a good friend of the show, former Dodgers prospect, is awesome out of the bullpen. However, just overall as a unit, kind of league average-ish. And I think the Dodgers are rolling right now. I don't think they sweep the series. It's very, very difficult to sweep 4-game series. But I think the Dodgers have the ability and can win 3 out of 4 games. So that would probably be my prediction for this day. All right. That's going to do it for here. Dodgers Dogs as part of the Dodgers Daily Network. We should have some additional shows this week. I'm hoping Wednesday Casey and I will be able to go live on Wednesday. Thursday and Friday I will be in Great Lakes as they continue their playoff push. Really rough week against Dayton. Was really frustrated on Wednesday night at the end of the show that Casey and I had based on some of the mistakes that the Loons have. They are still in the fight, but it's a really tough battle for them. Also tough battles for Oklahoma City, for Tulsa, for Ontario, to try to fight for their playoff opportunities and spots as well. But things are going well for the Dodgers. Things are going well for the minor league system. When things are going well, that means that things are good in the world of Dodgers baseball. And it allows the Dodgers to be opportunistic with some of the choices that they could make, which means that move like a Tarek Skubal is not completely off of the radar, because that could be a move that the Dodgers could be opportunistic about. Looking forward to the game tonight. Dodgers versus Diamondbacks happening at 6:40 Pacific time, 9:40 Eastern. Edgardo Enriquez going on the mound for Arizona. I believe it's going to be Emmett Sheehan on the mound for Los Angeles. Dodgers are going for more wins as we enter into the month of June here. I was about to say continue into the month of May. We're already into the month of June. Dodgers baseball is rolling right along. We here at Dodgers Dogs are rolling right along. We thank you for tuning in. We will be back later this week. Thank you for tuning in. God bless. And it is a great day to be a Dodger.